So this trend is really important because that trend is what's isolating answers in the business. It's isolating, and it's very much a concern when you try to roll it all up to a boardroom. The mechanics, the metrics, the data, the answers, the outcomes are somewhat disconnected. And when you kind of see it when you build boardroom reports. From your sales ops team or rev ops team, you're getting certain numbers. FinOps is coming up with different answers. Marketing ops is coming, and then somebody has to harmonize all of this. In the largest companies on the planet, you'll see like a chief of staff working for the CEO to pull all of those PowerPoints together and harmonize the message. So what you're actually seeing is a large disconnect across these operating business units in the business. This has become an issue. They're not working from the same sheet of music. Snowfire gives you that foundation place to access data from.
Awesome. Welcome to the first episode of Wise Guys. I just gave it this title. I don't know if we're going to keep this intro, but we are here with the CEO of Snowfire, Greg Janung. How are you doing today?
Wes, pleasure to be with you. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Are you a wise guy?
Exactly.
I like
Wise
that.
guy.
That's
WHYZ. I like it.
That's pretty fun. Let's do it.
Let's do this. So the first question I want to basically talk about is kind of AI as a whole, because it's been a whirlwind the last, I want to say 2.5 years, ever since ChatGPT hit the main market, and there's just been news after news after news. And earlier this year, I read an article called The $600 billion Question, because in that time, AI investments have reached $600 billion. And people are starting to question, where is this going? I don't know if AI is where it needs to be. It's not doing what it's promised. Basically, the honeymoon is over. As a company that has raised money pretty fast and pretty quick, where do you see not only the space of AI going, but how it's going to change certain things in the future?
It's a very insightful question. There's a lot to that.
Mm-hmm.
You did not serve me a softball on the first question. No. So let's try to break this into some pieces, if you'd allow me to do that. I think first and foremost, let's talk about the fundraising aspect of it. A $600 billion number is probably woefully underinvested, in all sincerity. I think McKinsey recently said it's a $4.1 trillion AI products and services market. And so that's how big they think it is. And so the $600 billion would be a small fraction of that. In terms of what we're looking at for our ability to fundraise, we've been very lucky to be aligned with exceptionally deep technical leadership, of a very clear vision of what we wanted to build and why. And then we also built an AI startup that is an AI startup acting like an AI startup. That factor of having everyone on the team doing something useful in their particular role that they play, using AI to make them more of a force multiplier. And I think that overall story is a big part of why this is a really interesting conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I think you're really asking is, why is this growing so quick, and what will it become? Is that is that a good interpretation of
that? That is a good interpretation.
I think this is about human enablement.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I think it's about financial efficiency, maximizing every dollar and dime put into the things that we do. And if we focus on business, most certainly that. And I think the last piece of it is that we've reached this moment of inevitability that we see it working. And so now we're looking for companies, and the investment strategy for most of the best on the planet is to not just find something that works, but find something that enables those human beings. And I think that's where we are today. And we're seeing, since ChatGPT launched, we saw the ability to interact with an AI and allow your stream of consciousness to ask prompts and do some cool stuff. But now you're really starting to see the extrapolation of AI and down to meaningful worker roles and expertise, all the way up to the boardroom and the executives that are running companies, where we at Snowfire play ball. And I think you're starting to see that the minds that are out there harnessing this time in human history are looking at how to get more out of every dollar that we spend, do more with the time that we have available to us, and accelerate human capabilities.
Awesome. I think that was a great way to wrap up why not only you guys are growing fast, but just the industry as a whole. Now, you said something earlier that kind of really piqued my interest. You said us being an AI startup and creating AI and using that AI with us.
Yes.
Is there a difference between an AI startup and just a company who's trying to build AI around their existing products?
I believe there is. We should maybe put a definition around this. It can be defined as first of all, if you're an AI startup, you're probably in the AI space. And so therefore, you're talking to investors who want to invest in AI. And more importantly, you're playing that productivity, efficiency, and force multiplier game with what you're focused on. For us at Snowfire, we're focused on making executives superhumans. We're focused on taking all of the data from inside of your business, all of it. That promise from the 80s of centralizing your data and making it useful. And then we're also pulling in every single thing we can get our hands on from the outside world. News, informational updates, competitive, suppliers, technology, anything that we can get our hands on, and making that a part of this analysis. And then the biggest part is making it personalized around every single executive. So getting into this AI startup thing, you have to look at what problems you're solving. And I think the best AI startups right now are not just building some kind of cool AI technology. It seems like we're seeing something new and cool every single day. The velocity of AI innovation is very cool, but the applicability of it has a wide variance of value.
Yes.
And we're looking to be one of those companies that isn't just building an agent, but maybe the master agent.
And I think that's a really good distinction, and it brings me into my next question, because you've alluded to a lot of what Snowfire has done and talking about like being the master of AI. Usually when people say AI startups, there's been this negative connotation around it where it's like, I have created a software that is basically, I've created a company that's basically a ChatGPT wrapper. What separates you from, and Snowfire, from just a run-of-the-mill AI startup?
Sure, yeah. So I don't know what a run-of-the-mill AI startup would be defined as, but I think we could probably couch it as an agent that does something. I think that agentic AI is a big thing right now, and there's hundreds of thousands of cool uses for agents, maybe even millions at this point. It's massive. I don't necessarily think those are run-of-the-mill, but I do think that they have limited capacity for human improvement. Limited capacity in the role that they're doing is very specific, or if we're trying to put a negative word on it, maybe myopic.
Okay.
And so what we're really looking for is to widen that angle of view into much more capability. So for us, our goal has been to build a platform that pulls all of the data from your business in. That's number one. Number two, it is really important that we're reducing the cost of technology, data, storage, and GPUs, reducing that to a singular point, a singular place. We call it an isolated data store to work from. We realized upon building that wasn't good enough. We have to take it another level. We got to turn up the heat on this Snowfire thing a little bit. And we got to pull in massive amounts of external data too, because now we can crunch those variables as well. And why should we not? And that's where you start to see the internal view of the business and the external view of the business now being maybe a proper set of lenses. And then what we did is we said, that's even not good enough for us. We now need to focus on the executives that we are supporting, and they all have different needs. They all manage the business and parts of the business with very different sets of focus. They have different metrics that support that part of the business. And probably most importantly, the thing we're most interested in solving is their experiences are all different too. They're different human beings.
That's true.
And so when you come to the table with Snowfire, what you have to realize is it's a platform where every executive gets an emulated agent that works on their behalf, the ChatGPT wrapper with an MBA type of thing you just went at.
Yeah.
And then you have to realize that it actually trains and tunes around that person. So it works on their behalf when they're sleeping or at the pool or on vacation with the kids. And that's what's really powerful about the vision that we had from the get-go.
And it's a very big vision, just AI in and of itself, like you're saying, the promise of the 80s. And I think the thing about AI that everybody has had this like universal experience of using it in my workflow. I'm starting to really become good with it. I'm building upon it. And then I actually try to verify something. I was like, oh, I just based a lot of information off of something that was wrong. It hallucinated something. You're taking in all this data. You're making things run fast and you're really enabling people. How are you making sure that when people use this software, use this process to enhance their business and everything else, that it doesn't hallucinate, that it's super accurate?
Great question. Probably my favorite question, because it was the most early and largest problem that we had in the business that we had to solve at the onset of the creation of Snowfire. It's a wonderful question. There are a couple of components to this. The first and foremost important part of this is you don't want to and this is a 25-year cybersecurity recovering addict speaking here, you don't want to send all of your data to an external large language model.
Mhm.
You don't want to load your data into that and give them that. That is not a part of the cybersecurity strategy that's existed on this planet forever. So that's first and foremost. It's not an acceptable behavior for corporate policy. It's not a part of what's enabling businesses to grow. It's actually against enterprise policy to do that, right?
Yes.
So that was never going to happen. When you accept that, you realize something else has to happen, which is that you have to create an isolated data store that enables you to then have all of that information securely located in one place. And then once you do that, this is kind of hopscotch of the genesis of the company, right? Then you have to realize, oh my goodness, we've got all of this data from hundreds of applications in one place now. This feels a lot like the old version of the SAP from the 80s, the centralized data store. And then what you realize is we have agentic AI, LLM, RAG capability available to us to do correlation and field mapping of these data sources. And no longer are they an isolated thing like a silo, like Salesforce, its own silo, ServiceNow's its own silo, NetSuite, and on and on and on. And there's thousands of these examples. But what you realize is that that's all just data with fields. And those fields can be correlated, cross-correlated, and knowledge graphed. And then you start to say, oh my goodness, now we can ask massive questions of correlated data sets. And then the possibilities become endless from there, because what you're really seeing is you've built a brain that you can ask the hard questions of. And that's the genesis of the whole Snowfire Foundation. But by the way, that's just the platform layer. Now you have to move up and understand. Now you get to talk about agents. There's an agent that understands that company. And that company is very special and unique. The technology it has, the people it has, the web presence it has, the technology that they're using, the suppliers that they have, the people who sell it, all of the executives, there's all of this nuanced data. And the very first thing we do when we train an agent is we train our supervisor agents on that company data, making hallucinations minimized. We're coming all the way back to your question by talking about building a foundation layer, building an agentic layer. And when you realize you're training a foundation agent, supervisor agent for us, on your business data, then you get hyper accurate answers. If Salesforce is messy, and almost everyone's Salesforce instance is messy, you start adding more to it. The AI doesn't say, I'm exhausted from analyzing all of this data. The AI says, give me more. And so we can look at the massive amount of fields. A field that may be dirty here could be sanitized in another area. The financial component of Salesforce may be rectified by a NetSuite, a QuickBooks, a Maxio. A Salesforce instance could also be rectified in marketing by a HubSpot or all these other platforms. Cross-correlation of fields with AI actually creates more accurate answers.
That is true.
So your hallucination question is a very hard, very deep cognitive question, but you have to look at the foundation of getting the data, putting it all together, centralizing it, fusing it, and then starting to see what you're going to stuff into that to augment it. Then the AI layer starts to correlate more accurate answers. So will we have hallucinations across all of AI? Sure we will. It'll be one of the hardest problems to solve. And the company that solves this problem will be a massive company, an Apple, Google-esque. But the fact of the matter is, what we've found is that more data means more accurate answers and more insights. And so don't try to... So can I finish by saying, that was a long explanation to a great question. Here's what you need to really understand. You're not going to have time to clean your data. If you think you're going to have time to clean your data, you're probably going to be left in the dust by your competitors. They're just going to send it all. / full send all data. We'll go on that.
So you're taking, like you're saying, you're taking in all this data and you're taking it from humans and you're using it to enable. Why is Snowfire able to better able to make these decisions and to give these insights rather than just a human itself?
Interesting question. Modeling decisions is really right now still compared to the modeling of the decision by a human being. And the amount of data that AI can process is far superseding the amount of data that a human being can process. 99.9% of them, at least. And so that question's a really interesting one, because what it comes back to is your hallucination question. AI is still much faster at processing than human beings are. And human beings kind of hallucinate too. And we're not talking about like, dreaming state hallucination, but we make bad decisions. We make wrong decisions, and we make uninformed decisions is the really best way to put that.
And then we're really stubborn about those decisions.
Yeah, they kind of stick with us for a while. And so what's beautiful about what we've built is that by sending more data, the AI can be tuned and trained over time. So it does learn. Our patent is an adaptive decision intelligence patent, by the way. Adaptive decision intelligence. Yep. So if you want to make intelligent decisions, really what we're talking about is being the most informed with the knowledge available to make the best decision. And so the Snowfire platform is purpose-built with this intent in mind. So it supersedes the time that human beings take to make decisions. It supersedes the ability to analyze all of those hundreds of billions of data points to make decisions. And the more data you throw at it, the happier it is. And so it's kind of a beautiful scenario. And now in the cost of, by the way, people say like, oh, you're going to send all your data. Yes, you are. It's actually the cost of data storage has gone down so much that we're not really talking about that anymore, right? We're talking about actually the ability to GPU process all of that data at scale. It's shifted quite a bit. And so, send all your data, ask hard questions, and be ready to look at the question that you're asking to elicit the most accurate answer. And that's where we've kind of seen that this place is going. This is where this is headed. Those that ask the best questions will usually get the best answer. Yeah, that's kind of about life, isn't it?
It is. And it's definitely like that with AI, who the one who prompts the best shall be king. But you alluded to it earlier, and I believed you earlier, but just kind of go in detail again, because as AI has popped up, so has AI security, whether it's LLMs getting influenced to make wrong decisions or to do things that it shouldn't be doing. There's a lot of concern about that. And something that you said earlier was large enterprises usually wouldn't upload this much data. It's against company practices. How are you securing all this data safely?
Yeah. A couple of questions that you've buried inside of one question. Again, you're very good at that. So we need to
That is massive. And I want to go back to the board report because there was something that was really cool in there, because while the latest example you just gave was very specific to the sales team and everything, but when you talked about different marketing departments having different ops and then being very discombobulated when it goes to the board, because we know when things are good, each department wants to take credit for it. But when things are bad, people want to blame the other departments.
Yes.
And when a sales closes, marketing wants to claim it, but sales says you can't do it without us, but marketing says you can't do it without the lead. How is Snowfire able to take all this information and not be objective in a way and just give very ubiquitous information to the board on what's working, what's not, what needs to be more invested in, what needs to be more efficient, all that?
Yeah. We're going to talk about product now because you really asked an answer that you're seeking is living in the product. So let's talk about how that works. So when you load data into Snowfire, the AI, the first thing that it does is let's even back up one step further. Let's set up your company. First thing we're going to do is onboard the company. That supervisor agent gets set up, number one. Number two, the second thing that we do is we auto provision your entire environment. We set up that isolated data store. That's most important because it's dedicated now to your space, your company. And we're going to load it up with all of your internal business data. And we're going to go out and scrape your entire website, take the external business data, and we're training on that first and foremost. Okay. So that's the isolated data store and how we begin the journey, right? The agents get to know your company. Then we start adding users. Every user, by the way, we have an unlimited user model. We don't charge you per seat. We want all of your human beings to be Snowfire enabled. So every human being in your company gets a Snowfire agent, and we build it around them. It's personalized to them. You're a very different decision maker than I am. We're probably not the same person. You would like your agent to emulate certain types of style of thinking, certain types of style of decision making, and probably focus on different types of things. You may be a CFO. I may be a CRO. We make different decisions. We have different needs, and our metrics are very different. Mm-hmm. So getting to your answer, once you've arrived at that layer of programming an agent around an executive and every one of them having their own dedicated emulating agent, then it starts to calculate the metrics that matter. And we've invented some really cool things. So as soon as you pipe data in less than 24 hours, it scrubs every data source you send and it produces metrics for it. No human beings needed. No data engineering needed. It does all of that. So we call that the large metric model. It builds out a large metric model for you. The evolution of that is that you're now, let's actually put you in a CMO role, a marketing role. The CMO of this organization, Wes, has 300 metrics that maybe are in your camp, your business unit, that you should probably be aware of. But maybe only 10% of those are the ones that you really have to report to the board on. Mm-hmm. Guess what? The Snowfire.ai already knows that. And you can favorite some of these metrics. You can tune some of these metrics. You can make suggestions to some of these metrics. And the AI will move with you. And over time, about a week to 2 weeks, we can train that agent around those favorites, those important metrics, those boardroom metrics that you're being asked about, the things that you've signed the business up for, you have to track. Those are metrics. And all of this really becomes tailored and customized around you. And this is how we've built this to help every executive on their journey toward being a superstar, AI-enabled executive.
How do you market something like this?
There's not many folks who really yet truly understand AI. If you model social networks, there's a theory that data is separated into 3 parts, and you can represent it with the competency of people. I think right now we have 1% of the population that truly understands AI and is doing some amazing things with it. You have another 9% that are innovators and really pushing themselves, that are that 9%, where in that 1 and 9%, 10% of the population is kind of there. And then you have 90% that are not sure, not going to be sure, just kind of holding off, waiting. And so you have this 1-9-90 distribution. I believe we're so early in the AI game that marketing to the 90 may not be the best answer. In that the 1 and the 9, the 10%, is is those change makers that are building the businesses of the future. So it's a bit of a conundrum to market to only 10% of the population in a massive model change like this. But that might be how early we are in the game. If you subscribe to that, then what you have to really say is, how can we possibly leave the other 90% out that aren't the change makers or the innovators? And how do you consider the 90%? I think with what we have built, it helps every executive out there, whether they're a change agent or an innovator. It helps every single one of them. So we really want to speak to the human capacity, the maximization of your capacity as an executive to bring an AI platform to you that all you have to do is load data. All you have to do is tell us what web domain you want crawled, what your interests in news are, and give us some time to tune the agents. And when you do that, you've become AI enabled by Snowfire to be on your journey and on your way to being a superhuman AI enabled executive. And what we like to say is that enables people to become leaders at this massive pace of change. So lead the pace of change is some of the tagline stuff we're thinking about putting on shirts for our executives. But it allows you to really very quickly, without engineering this yourself, without having to try and figure out how this works, without giving your data away to a ChatGPT or an LLM, to get started very quickly, get started very cost effectively, and more importantly, move into that superhuman role as fast as possible. And so when we talk about marketing Snowfire, it's human capacity that I think we're enabling here.
So in a way, you're basically saying like, we are going to enable certain companies that are moving quick, have great potential because they see the potential in Snowfire. And then once they become the leaders, everybody's like, hey, how did you get here? And then Snowfire is going to be not a nice to have, but a need to have.
I love that vision. We have to talk about early day adoption too. We've seen incredible success in our conversations and go-to-market strategy with CFOs. CFOs are inundated with requests for new tools, new technologies, new personnel. They're the continual ask engine to release funds to do things. You go to your CFO. And so CFOs are looking at this entire productivity, efficiency, gains, human capacity that we can undergo and achieve. And they're saying, whoa, what happens if I use a Snowfire to look at our software, to look at our data, to look at our business, to look at everything that's a cost component of the business? Well, first of all, you start to see better margins. CFOs love that. But it gets better. What about CROs, people who are in charge and tasked with the growth of the business, revenue, growth? Those leaders are also empowered with spending and check writing because they don't have a choice. They have to grow the company. So what can you do? And this is that AI startup thing. What can you do to transform your business as a CRO into that AI startup mentality? Can you get more force multiplication out of every human being you have, out of every process and tool you have? And then I think it gets even better than that, because you've got a CRO and a CFO now who've bought in. Guess who buys in next? CEO. It's an undeniable truth. Mm-hmm. The growth and the margin components of your business, when paired together, are an undeniable ability to harness growth and take your company to the next level.
Wait, you're telling me CEOs like to grow fast and to save money?
Oh, and there's one more component. They like to retain customers too.
That's another big one.
Growth, margin, retention. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful question. How do you market Snowfire? We're seeing incredible success with CFOs. Well, CFOs who have a nonstop stream of financial asks, and they have to allocate capital efficiently. We're seeing a CRO, I have to grow the business at all costs, and I can't just do it by hiring people anymore mentality. And we're seeing CEOs that are saying, I'm being asked by my board to innovate, and I don't have time to wait. Your team sat down and saw Snowfire. Mm-hmm. And I think I think I enjoyed that session with you guys a lot. We had some fun with that. But what did you take away from it now, having had a couple of weeks to meditate on what you saw? What did you see that got you excited?
What got me excited was we all live in our companies when you want to see it go somewhere, and when you are at a small company, like you live in your company. And I've seen some people call it the heroics you would pull off, where you spend a lot of time thinking about something, you spend a lot of time throwing things at the wall, see what sticks, and then you're like, wow, this is a really good insight that we have in a way that we could differentiate ourselves. And I can think of off the top of my head at least 4 or 5 times that's happened and has really enabled us as a company, whether it's in sales, whether it's our product, whatever it might be, that has enabled us to be different and has also turned into us growing as a company. And what I saw with Snowfire was the possibility to accelerate that motion by an exponential rate of, wow, before we had to go into each and every one of our reports, we've had to, each and every one of our softwares, our inputs, put it in a spreadsheet, do a whole bunch of calculations, and then try and figure out a way not to manipulate it or anything, but to tell a story around it that makes sense to the person that we're talking to, whether it is a CFO, whether it is a CRO, a CMO, whatever it might be. And for me at least, I saw, wow, we could get all of our data in super quickly, and I want to get our CEO on it. I want to get our director of demand gen in there to look at these insights, because the number one thing none of us have when usually you're in a startup is time. And it's just like, cool, we've all had late nights, caffeine fueled nights where it's just like, cool, like I stayed up late, I came up with something awesome, and it's cool. Like we keep chugging along and we're on a great path. But when you see something where it's just like, oh, this could definitely take our strengths and make them even stronger. It's like, I don't know, it's like taking steroids or something.
Why is it that getting time back feels superhuman?
Because I think time is the only currency that is equal among everything. Like we all have an equal amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day. We all have that. We all have a certain amount of years. We all have to sleep, and it's not like you can speed it up or slow it down.
Some of us have to sleep less.
Some of us do. I'm sorry. I'm not at that level yet.
It's interesting though. Time is such a valuable construct. It is. And in the age of AI, what you're alluding to, your excitement and your visceral response is the acknowledgement of the ability to get time back.
Yeah. And
what would you do with it? Other things. Other more valuable things.
And I think, especially with Snowfire, like that's always been the promise with AI, where it's like, it'll save you tons of time doing this. It'll save you tons of time doing that. And every now and then you see something with it, especially, I don't know, in the creative field at first, once, what am I thinking of? The image generator? Midjourney. Yeah, Midjourney. Or you could start to make things in ChatGPT. You're like, from a creative standpoint, you're like, oh, okay, it's not really there. You see Sora or something, you're like, okay, I see how it could help a little bit. But this was the first time where I really saw something where it was just like, oh, this is actually really applicable to me. This is applicable to business in and of itself, and it can go in a bunch of different directions. And I think the big problem people have had with AI is like, okay, we've had all these promises. I'm not seeing the tangible results yet. And that was one of the first times that I saw like, oh, wow, like this is something that can actually live up to the promise.
That's so cool. I love that because, when we built it, we had running effective companies in mind. That was like really that was the core of it. We wanted to pull all your data, augment that, correlate that, and give you a place to just run it from. And it's kind of become a lot more than that already. And we can't really harness it backward now. You realize, oh my goodness, it'll take all of this external data. We call it like signals intelligence. It'll take like military style signals intelligence. You mean I don't actually have to read the news anymore? I can correlate that inside Snowfire and it will tell me what's most important. Oh, wait, you're telling me I have agents that work on my behalf now, even when I'm not there? Oh my goodness. Okay. So really what you're coming back to is you get all your time back, centralize kind of how to run the business into one platform. And then guess what? You get to be a superhuman decision intelligence agent yourself. And that's what I think you're most excited. And you're describing that ability to have all of the metrics, all of the data, all of the intelligence harnessed, prioritized, contextualized for you.
100%. Because each step that you just listed is super time consuming from a business end. There's always these what ifs. There's always these meetings you have to hop into to contextualize it or prioritize or anything like that. So the fact that I saw that possibility like that, it was pretty awesome.
It's going to be wild when we're making a decision in the console and pushing that decision back to either other platforms, other people, other machines. It's going to be really interesting when you connect the entire other half of this into the actionability. From a decision, an action comes from it. That decision has an impact. That action is tracked. And that action is carried forward all the way back to the decision and all of the downstream effects of a decision. It's going to be really wild where that goes.
It is. It's going to be very wild. The people, what I've heard a lot when it comes to AI is, in the only promise that it's fulfilling is with efficiency. And unfortunately, the main cost benefit to companies and investors and everything has only been cost savings by getting rid of people doing the job.
Oh.
What you talk a lot about it, how this benefits the CFOs, the people making the decisions and everything. How can this actually help people who are doing the job? Is this going to actually basically insulate them in a way? Is this also going to get rid of that?
This question requires a deep breath. What you're talking about is an ancillary fear inside of most every person on the planet right now. And that the fear of being replaced by something who never sleeps, doesn't complain, it's maybe tax deductible, can be depreciated, and doesn't have healthcare costs. If I could just list a couple of things that describe the AI versus human component of the world we're moving into. Yeah. These things are subconscious detractors that create fear. I don't think fear is the right response. I think we have to take a step back and look at what happened when the iPhone was invented, when the internet was invented. We go back to the first airplane being flown, to the advent of the printing press. We've had these major technological advances, and human civilization has had to wrap its head around it and reposition. This is likely a repositioning time. I do believe this might be the largest revolution that we've ever had in terms of a technological advancement for humanity. So with all of those caveats in mind, with that acknowledgement in mind, what are we really talking about here in terms of people being worried about AI maybe taking their jobs? That's kind of the question. That's a question you're asking, right?
In a way.
Yeah. So I think the modern worker, you're asking about workers because Snowfire really supports executives. It's the very top of the decision intelligence layered system in every business. That's where we live. But every worker question that you're asking is about enabling them as well. So if an executive at the top making decisions with Snowfire helps the business be run more efficiently, anyone in that particular part of the business is going to be a part of that efficiency system. And so those particular workers that are doing amazing work, whether it be physical, logical, or even emotional work in the business will be enabled differently. And I think everyone who wants to be a part of this revolution has to take a step back, take a deep breath, and look at who they want to be, what their superpowers are, what they like to give their time to, and maybe reposition around being that as this revolution happens with AI. So, change is the only constant as far as I know mathematically on this planet. This is a change moment. AI is a change agent. Human beings will be changed. The ones that I think will have the most fun in this time in human history are going to be the ones who take a step back, take a breath, and figure out what superpowers they want to harness as they move into a new system.
That's a good way to put it, of who do you want to become in this AI revolution? I guess my question is, when it comes to the fear that like workers are feeling, the fear, what would you say to somebody of like, my fear is being reduced to a number, an efficiency score of something that I don't feel like I have complete control of, that I feel like the efforts of I go and be above and beyond for can't be boiled down to a 80 out of 100 on the efficiency score, or vice versa. What do you say to those people, and how does, if it can specifically Snowfire, but AI, how is it able to take in all that and make not just calculated decisions, but justify what, like the whole picture, if that makes sense?
Yeah. This is a psychologically dense conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd like to go back to our forefathers, maybe our fathers and mothers, maybe our grandfathers and grandmothers. And the economy of the American economy was built on the punch card. You punched in, you worked, you punched out. And they loved it. They made good money. They had stable families. They fed the children, and they built wealth. And so this is not a new concept. It happens to be one that's just evolved. And I think the evolution of this that we're describing now is for those individuals who are highly creative and can produce amazing large box creative things are going to do very well. AI still kind of struggles with that. Creatives are going to do really well. The emotional stewards that guide humanity through, psychology, psychologists, emotional support, healthcare still is going to be, it'll be a wild adoption of AI, but it still requires human attention, human mind. And there's just areas that are going to change, but we're going to have to adopt and adapt to this. And I'm going to go back to the punch card and just say, like, you have always been on a punch card. Do you realize it or not? With computers, as soon as everybody went home to work for COVID, if I could just go one more layer deeper, everyone saw when you light up your machine with the mouse, every machine that you have in your home is logging your activities. These behavioral dynamics of your work ethic, your productivity, and your efficiency have always been there. Just happens to be in this new AI economy, things are going to become a little bit more transparent. Oh, and by the way, that happens to be the same exact case for executives.
So you're saying, in a way, it'll make a more fair and balanced system because everyone's judged equally. In a way.
I don't know that everyone is judged equally. I do know that the information is gathered equally.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah, I would agree with that, because the person doing the judging is a person.
Now that's an edgy topic.
Yeah. Now, you talked about
transparency is everywhere now. That's what we're really saying, Wes. Doesn't matter who you are. Transparency is everywhere. And the decisions you make are pretty transparent now too.
That is very true. There's not that many secrets out there anymore. Doesn't matter if it's work, personal life, it's technology has completely changed it. Now, you talked about adapting and overcoming. For the people who are I don't want to say purist or conservative about AI or anything. What happens if we don't adapt?
Oh my goodness. Can I be off the record on this one? This is not a part of the interview, but we can have fun with it anyway.
Yes, please cut this.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe don't cut it, but just maybe this is the odd job takes of like AI, like what maybe we're not going to put to social, but if the current place that we are is AI is now real, the next version of this movie is really like a I'll be back. Okay, it's the Terminator version 1. All right. The Rise of the Machines, and you have like apparently the writers of all of these movies. The next is The Matrix, and so on and so forth. And I was joking with Sammy that we end up living 100 miles toward the core of the earth, just trying to keep warm when all this is stuff.
Mole people.
Yeah, but what's really important here is we're not going to be able to escape this. And if you really value your time, going back to your original comment about getting time back, then you don't necessarily want to escape it.
That's true.
Very hard paradox to deal with. The ability to be so effective and efficient and productive using an AI or AIs so that you can get all your time back to do the things you really want to do. Maybe spend time with your kids or your loved ones, or be alone in solace in nature. There's a lot of things that are very cool about this. And if you adapt and adopt it, you do get your time back and you get to do different things.
Now here's a question for you. So over the last 100 years, we have become insanely efficient compared to 100 years ago. And I'm only saying this because I've heard this storyline before of throughout these 100 years, everybody has said, once we get this efficient, then we can spend more time with our families, or we can work 4 hours a day. You can find news articles from the 60s, 80s, whatever. Like, we'll never have to work more than 4 hours a day, or 4-day work weeks or something like that. But it seems like no matter how efficient we get, we always seem to fill it up with something else. Is there a future with AI making us so superhuman, so whatever, that we don't have to, that there actually is that time back? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, but what you just described is not AI, it's IA. It's intelligence that might be a little artificial.
It's true.
So it's an interesting, I'll tell you this, if I could speak personally, nothing makes me happier than skiing down a mountain with my kiddo. Can you give me that time back? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. In fact, to be honest with you, I was on a ski trip very recently and we went skiing during the day. I'm running an AI startup. I did have a Friday I took off and I went skiing with my kiddo. You know what I did at the end of that day? Put him to bed, pulled out my iPad, and I ran the company, and it only took me 10 minutes. I logged into Snowfire. If I could tell you why?
Yeah,
we did this.
Please.
Logged into Snowfire. I checked all of our engineering metrics, all of our sales metrics. I checked all of the meetings that happened that day. I had the AI tell me what I needed to know as CEO of the company, and I didn't have to go longer than 10 minutes to get it. That's a cool future. And by the way, it's now.
That's pretty insane. So you just talked about a future that I would say about 90% of the population can't imagine.
Really?
When it comes to running a company, the amount of hustle culture of work 12 hours a day, go work out, then do this, whatever, and work is, I don't want to say a plague, but it's just what most people are expecting comes with running a successful company and being a higher up in it. Now, how does the AI enabled executive in the next 5 to 10 years, how do they become what you are today?
Oh man. So first of all, my hours are not in balance. Let me just say that outright. We're talking about me skiing one day since we started the company, but being able to come back at that end of the day and run it from an iPad. But I got to be honest with you, I've dreamed of this day for a long time. I've been working in business intelligence, big data, product. I've been working to support, trying trying in my very, very own individual and best ways in the part of the business that I've been in or my career to help run companies as most effectively and efficiently as possible. And it's been a dream to get to this moment. I am not there yet, but I did have a day where I was able to take a day and go skiing with my kiddo and come back and crush it. And I crushed it by using Snowfire, asking the questions I wanted, being given the data in a contextualized manner as CEO of the company that already had all the metrics I wanted to check on, already had the health of the business, told me about the day, told me about everything I had going on in Slack, told me about everything that happened in engineering that day. It was all there for me to check in on very quickly. And I think it's going to get even better because one of the things that I'm really focused on is tuning my Snowfire, the Greg Janung Snowfire agent. I'm hyper focused on tuning it for the things that are important to me. And it's learning very quickly the metrics that matter to me, the data sources that I query the most from, the types of questions that I'm asking, the things that I want to know. And it's even looking at when I ask them. You know, a query at 7 a.m. is different than a query at 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so a query on Monday morning is different than a query on Friday evening, if you're blocking out certain pieces of how the calendar works for executives. And so I think what's really interesting about this for me is, and this is a sad state of admission here, is that I have found a lot of ways to free up time by using Snowfire, but I found a lot of ways to fill that time with other hustle components. Hustle culture has still not disappeared. I've just shifted it. But what I would say is that shift is something that's very visible in how long it's taken us to build Snowfire. 6 months. I think in the pre-AI era, I personally think it would have taken 3 years.
So that's a good point. And let's just say in the last 6 months since starting Snowfire, you had one of those days where that you were able to see your kid, or not see your kid, sorry, that you were able to spend with your kid and then come at the end of the day and just run everything. The more that you fine tune and the more you make it you, and then in 5 years, how many of those days do you think you can have in a year?
Wow. First of all, can I defend my dad schedule here for a minute?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
7 a.m., I'm in front of the machine. And I've got East Coast folks, it's 8 a.m. for them. And then I go till about 7 at night because I've got West Coast folks, it's 5 for them. So I get a 7 to 7 almost every day. Have dinner with the kiddo, probably chill out with him a little bit, play with the dog, and make sure that during the weekdays that the relationship is consistent. My wife, we get to have a little bit of that evening time and talk. But what's beautiful about the 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock to 11 and 12 hour in the evening is I'm on my mobile device on Snowfire hammering away. And so I can still be highly effective during the day, get as much as I can done, orchestrate as a CEO, do my family duties and keep that family healthy, and then move into some isolated time with my mobile device where I can still crush and prepare for the next day. So that's kind of what my schedule looks like. When you go skiing on the top of a mountain that doesn't have cell service, it's really helpful. That device doesn't even matter. And so what I'd like to give your answer to is that we are all very protective of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And as investors in our company would want me to be putting as much as I can in to make this race car run, I think we have an opportunity at a really cool and differentiated life balance. And I'm not going to say work life, because if you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work. So you're just remove the work part of it. It's just life balance. And I think that's what I'm envisioning. So how many days can I get back like this? To be honest with you, maybe as many as it takes to run the most successful AI company on the planet and move a fire with my mind.
Telekinesis, I love it.
Not to be cocky about it, but seriously, if the company's being run well, take a day. If my team is running their part of the business really well, take a day. Take a half a day. Take an hour. Take what you need to stay healthy and have fun. If you're having fun and you're healthy, you're probably going to be loving what you're doing. And that's really the part that we're trying to get to here. You want to get your time back. One thing you haven't asked me that you really want to, it just hasn't come out yet is, isn't this supposed to be fun?
Is it?
Yeah, it is. If we're having fun, it don't feel like work.
That is true.
So I think that would maybe be the goal and the answer.
So does Snowfire make work more fun?
I think it does. I really, truly believe that it does. I have fun inside of our console. I am literally at my fingertips getting the answers to the questions that I want. And I don't have to go ask a person and make their job tough or,
put more on their plate.
Yeah. And just boom, prompt, boom, insight, boom, metric. It's there.
Would you say working at a company that has Snowfire doesn't make it more enjoyable to work there?
No. If the answer to that is not yes, then I'm not doing something right as the CEO of Snowfire.
That's beautiful.
I stand by that.
Good.
Yeah. Now, you've interviewed a couple folks here today. You've had 4 different perspectives on Snowfire, and they don't seem to want to stop talking about it.
No.
You yourself had a really beautiful response to it when you saw it. I think we're doing good so far. We've just got to keep it up.
Yes. Every indicator that you can measure by, that from like a outside perspective of like, oh, is this going good? Is this not? Like, it checks all the boxes. Even the vibes box, it checks.
The vibe
box.
Are we vibe coding?
Yeah. Running off vibes.
Are we vibe execing?
It's going to be something now. A vibe execing.
Let's make one. Let's make that.
You can vibe exec with Snowfire.
Why can't you vibe exec?
And I honestly think that's kind of a little bit about what you're talking about. Like, if the vibes in the company are good and Snowfire is telling you everything is good, everything's going well, the vibes are good, you could take a day.
Yeah. Well, I'm a CEO who's running, not me, by the way. There are CEOs with Snowfire.
You know what? I actually think there's something. I actually think there's something there, because I've worked with a lot of CEOs, and the one thing they can't do is turn off their mind, and they can't feel comfortable stepping away for a day, a week.
Yeah.
Like, there's one CEO I know who has planned a family vacation, and they've been stressing about it for 6 months, because just that anxiety of stepping away and like trying to turn your brain off of your company for a week, it's anxiety inducing.
It is.
But if all the way up, all the indicators are good with Snowfire, and even at 7 p.m. after you spend the whole day hiking the mountains or skiing down it, you can check and crush for an hour or two.
That's exactly right.
I think it is. I honestly think Snowfire is just a vibe check of the company.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Now here's the thing. You sat up straight. You had a moment of inspiration about this. Yeah. Is vibe execing a thing?
It could be.
What would you describe it as? What does it mean to a vibe exec? Well, vibe code. First of all, what's vibe code? Some folks don't even know what that means. What is vibe coding?
You tell me. You probably have a better insight than I do.
It's basically using AI to have fun coding again.
That's what good. I want to make sure I didn't have the wrong definition.
So what's vibe execing?
Well, here's the thing is, I think if you've been at a company long enough, you know the good times, you know the bad times.
Yes.
And I think, when you're in the good times, you're trying to make sense of, is it because there's more money coming in? Is it because there's not as much work in here? Is it because this client's happy? Like, I don't know why, but it just feels good. And then when it's bad, and then when it's good, you're like, oh, I think it was bad because we were in net 90 with this one company, and we were doing all the work, and we couldn't get the money, and it was whatever. You try to place it, but I think vibe execing is being able to look at everything and be like, oh, we're crushing in this, and this. Every department, the metrics that I want, they're doing good. Oh, when times were bad, it was because this happened, and it was because these departments weren't hitting whatever. Like, I feel like with Snowfire, you're able to look at that really clearly. I feel like you're able to, and also be able to forecast that as well. So
can I use an analogy, maybe a visual?
Sure.
I'm going to channel my father. really interesting thing you shared with me early on in my life is the story of a pendulum. And this is the analogy of time. The grandfather clock has this back and forth. And this pendulum, when you're sitting all the way at the bottom, seems like massive swings. Oh. And this is kind of the heartbeat. This is rhythm. But the pendulum analogy is a thing. If you're all the way down at the bottom of the pendulum, those swings seem massive. And vibe execing is shifting yourself up on the pendulum so that it ain't as intense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so I think this is what we're kind of talking about as an analogy. There's an ability to shift out so much noise and using AI to focus into a vibe.
And I think while you move up, it might be a perception that the swings are smaller and everything because you have all this info.
It's still there.
I actually think
it's still there.
I actually think the swings are a lot less because I feel like when you're uninformed, only reason I say this is because I've heard this from other people where it was just like things are going good. They're almost going too good to the point where I'm nervous because I feel like something's going to go wrong.
The pendulum swings back.
The pendulum swings back because that's just life. It's going to swing back. I don't know how or what when, but I feel like if you are, as an exec, super informed about all the things in your business because you have all the data, you have everything, you're bringing it all together, you're able to see the heat map of everything across your company and everything.
Catch it early.
Catch it early.
Yeah. A symptom is an indicator. Catch it early. Get ahead of it. Use the agent to help process and analyze potential decisions that can be made to impact that positively back in the right direction. Vibe exec.
Vibe exec.
Yeah.
Change your whole marketing strategy. Vibe execing.
Well, this is leading at the pace of change.
Perfect.
This is all changing so quickly around us. Catch it early.
Vibe coding wasn't a thing 3 years ago.
Vibe execing wasn't a thing until 10 minutes ago.
Exactly. You were here at the inception, and that's episode 1 of Wise Guys. What are we going to do for episode 2?
Episode 1 of Wise Guys is awesome. Episode 2, let's talk about the human spirit and harnessing it at the executive level to find out what every human being at the boardroom is, how to create that as a mathematical calculation and determine how to get the greatest output from it. That's session 2.
Check it next time. You coming soon.